Have you ever found yourself stuck in some slow, clunky government process and just thought, why can't they get with the times? Well, here's the thing. A lot of them are trying. They're trying to adopt this really popular method from the tech world called Agile. But it usually fails. And the reason why is this fascinating secret that's hidden not in some dusty rulebook, but deep inside the human mind. Let's dig into what's really going on. All right, first things first, we've got to get our heads around two totally different ways of thinking. For decades, huge projects, especially in government, ran on what's called the waterfall model. It's super rigid, totally linear. You design everything up front, then you build the whole thing, then you test it. The big problem? If you make a mistake way back in the design phase, you might not find out until the very end, and by then, disaster. Now, Agile is the complete opposite. It's all about working in these small, quick cycles, they call them sprints, and constantly getting feedback. You build a little, you test a little, you learn, and you adjust. So you can see why governments are jumping on this Agile bandwagon, right? It promises to make them more flexible, more responsive. From city halls in Germany to federal agencies in the US, leaders everywhere are saying, we need to be more agile. But there's this massive gap between the promise and what actually happens on the ground. And what's really interesting is why they want it so badly. Agile is seen as the perfect weapon for tackling what experts call wicked problems. These aren't your everyday issues. We're talking about the huge, tangled challenges that have no clear solution when you start. Think about it. Organizing a pandemic response, fighting climate change, or reacting to a sudden economic crisis. You can't just write a 5-year plan and follow it blindly. You absolutely have to learn and adapt as you go. And that is Agile's sweet spot. And that brings us to the big mystery. If Agile is so perfect for these modern challenges, why does it fail so often in government? Why do these huge, expensive transformation projects end up as what this research calls faux Agile? Where they adopt the buzzwords, they do the morning stand-up meetings, but absolutely nothing about the rigid, bureaucratic core of the organization actually changes. What's going on? Well, here's the twist. The answer, according to this incredible research, isn't about the method itself. It's not about finding the perfect Agile coach or buying the right software. The key is perception. It all comes down to what the people inside the organization are actually able to see when this new idea is put in front of them. To really get this, we need to grab a concept from psychology called social affordance. It's a really simple but super powerful idea. An affordance is just a possibility for action that your environment offers you. But here's the crucial part. It's all about what you perceive as possible. It's the gap between what you could theoretically do and what your brain tells you is a safe, realistic, or smart thing to do in your specific situation. The psychologist who came up with this term, J. Gibson, used a perfect analogy. A postbox only affords the action of mailing a letter if you understand what a postal system is, right? If you've never seen one before, it's just a weird red box on the street. The possibility for action is completely invisible to you. The exact same thing happens with Agile in government. Okay, so check out this model from the study. It basically shows us what's happening inside an employee's head. When a new idea like Agile gets introduced, that's the trigger on the left, it hits this crucial mental filter. People immediately, and often subconsciously, ask themselves a question. Is this a real opportunity for me? Will it help me do my job better? Or is this a threat to my job, my status, my control? And how they answer that question changes everything. So, to see how this plays out in the real world, the researchers went inside a large German city government that was trying to roll out a big Vision 2030 plan to become more agile. They ran a bunch of focus groups to find out what the public servants on the ground actually saw, what were the opportunities, and what were the threats. Let's start with the hope. With the good stuff, because the employees weren't just being cynical or difficult. No way. They could absolutely see the potential benefits of working in a more agile way. And it was tied directly to their desire to serve the public better. I mean, listen to this quote. It just nails it. They wanted to use Agile to fix the exact things that drive all of us crazy. They saw it as a tool to finally break down those internal walls and build a government that actually works for people. So they definitely perceived the opportunity. But, and this is the huge but, that's not what won the day. The reality was that for every little glimmer of hope, there was a much more powerful, deeply ingrained force of resistance pushing right back. The threats they perceived felt way more real and immediate than the opportunities. And here's why. The social environment, the very culture of the organization, made Agile feel dangerous. You had that powerful, we've always done it this way inertia. You had middle managers whose entire status was built on control, looking at these self-organizing agile teams and seeing a direct threat to their authority. Everyone was already swamped, so this just felt like more work. And maybe most importantly, the culture was one where mistakes were punished, not learned from. A manager in one of the focus groups just laid it bare. He said the biggest problem is the leadership. If a manager doesn't trust their team to solve problems on their own and maybe make a small mistake along the way, then agility in that department is zero. It's just dead in the water. The possibility of empowerment is totally blocked by that need for control. And if you think that's tough, listen to this quote from a finance official. It is chilling. When he was asked about experimenting and iterating, the absolute heart of Agile, his response was, clear answer, no. Why? Because in his world, a mistake isn't a learning opportunity. It's something that could get him punished in a court of law. When you have a zero-tolerance culture for failure, the core ideas of Agile aren't just invisible, they're seen as actively dangerous. This table from the study just lays the whole conflict out, clear as day. Look at this. For every single key Agile practice, there was a perceived opportunity that was just completely squashed by an overwhelming threat. They wanted cross-functional teams, but the strict hierarchies stopped them. They wanted to communicate openly, but they were afraid of being punished for speaking up. The environment, the culture simply did not afford them a new way to act. So, what's the solution? What does it really take? Well, the research is crystal clear on this. You can't just install a new mindset like it's a software update. It doesn't work that way. The problem isn't the people, it's the environment they're working in. So if you really want to make these new ideas stick, you first have to make them perceivable. Leaders have to actively change the environment. First, they have to build psychological safety, an atmosphere where people feel safe enough to speak up and try new things. Second, leaders have to walk the walk. They can't ask for collaboration if they're still hoarding information. And third, and this is the big one, they have to make it safe to fail, reframing small mistakes not as crimes, but as the necessary price of learning and innovation. At the end of the day, this is the ultimate takeaway. You have to change the organizational environment, the culture, the leadership, the incentives first. Only when the environment makes it feel safe and even smart to try something new, only then will people finally be able to see the incredible possibilities of a good idea. And that leaves all of us with a really big question, one that goes way beyond government. In your team, in your company, in whatever work you do, how can you help shape the environment so that the best ideas aren't just theoretically possible, but are actually perceivable as a real opportunity by the very people you need to bring them to life?